Now, I'm no legal expert, but isn't it like unconstitutional to treat someone as if they're guilty until proven innocent?
Well, patriarchy comes from the church, which is now the state.
I mean, you see how easy it is to like erase a person's experience?
Well, dehumanizing people. That's exactly what Hitler did. Not only are they heavily stacked against men, but they're being abused for retribution, essentially.
It's always listen to the victim until it's a white man.
Yeah.
You know, like it
which isn't that bigoted? Isn't that equally as bigoted as anything else?
It is absolutely bigotry. I will start another kitchen sink microscopy because it is time to get loud and mad. And oh, yeah, I'm Casey Rochford. And like and share and subscribe and bibbity boppity boop.
Oh, I'm fucking pissed too. Well, I don't even know what I'm pissed about, but I'm pissed. Man, just come out swinging. Boom, bow, psha. Take that, you dirty rat.
Don't make me angry, Mr. McGee. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
So I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and yeah, it's kind of surprising I didn't bring any guns out now, you know, but so we write our own music, and I'm sure there's going to be apparently something really angry at the end of this episode.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, stick around to the end down there, timestamp right here, you know, like, whoop. Maybe I can make it appear there or something. I don't know. We'll see if I might be lazy, but our music's available on iTunes and Spotify and such places. And you can go to our website, ksmvidcast.com, go to patreon.com/ksmvidcast if you want to help support the channel, or you could go to our merch store and, you know, pick up some cool swag. Yeah, anything helps. I mean, you know, yeah, we're on a shoestring budget here.
Yeah.
Barely even that. Yeah. So Casey, what do you want to talk about today? I'm guessing it's something that's gonna get me all riled up.
This is kind of related to something that it's like one of the few controversial topics we haven't really discussed at all. And it's the matter of like sexism. But in this specific case, I really want to focus on and apologies that we haven't done a feminism episode first, but you know, boo-hoo. Like,
well, we're dudes, so like we should.
We'll really get there. Should. Yeah, and we'll have a guest, you know, like, but there is like an epidemic in Washington State. Like this is happening a lot, and people have no idea that it's going on. There is legal abuse happening in the courts, and it has to do with anti-harassment suits and how much they, here in Washington State, they relax the laws so much for good intentions and for good reason, to like help women who were getting the shaft in court when it came to, you know, like some of them would end up dead because they weren't, you know, taken seriously enough.
Or they were there was some coercion going on behind the scenes. So,
yeah,
like, and I get that.
In typical legislative fashion, instead of finding some equality, they're like, well, let's just tip the teeter-totter all the way to the other end and slant it against men. And it is very, very slanted against anything with a penis.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of a sort of an overcorrection. Like rather
That's
than
an understatement.
Attempt to try to figure out a balance, they just flipped it the other way. And I think the analogy of a teeter-totter is a pretty good example.
So, I mean, anyone can look into this, but in Washington State, they removed the rules of evidence. So you basically can just bring whatever you want as evidence. Anything that's inadmissible in any other court of law is suddenly admissible, and you don't have to provide it to the opposing party in a timely manner. You can just bring it up in court, and like it's.
Well, I thought there was a whole process for like how court works.
Not anymore. Not for anything having to do with anti-harassment cases.
What?
So effectively, what happens is, if you're a woman and you point the finger, it gets rubber stamped, and you've just ruined a guy's life. And you can do it to anyone for any reason. All you have to do is say, "I'm scared," and they believe you.
Well, that's really terrifying.
That's not even hyperbole. Like, I'm not bullshitting. That's how easy it is.
Well, and yeah, that's totally terrifying, because if there's a messy breakup or something, then all somebody has to do is like level an accusation against somebody.
Exactly.
And if you're a dude, well, look out, because they're not even going to listen to the information.
Here's my advice. Do background checks on anyone you meet on Tinder or whatever. Do background checks on the women just as much as they do background checks on the men.
I think that's totally a reasonable, thing across. It sucks that we have to, that it comes down to this.
Yeah. And if they seem a little like they're litigation happy, maybe tread lightly. Don't text them
and I have to say, I don't want to get too woo, but trust your gut instinct. Like if something doesn't seem right,
well, there are sociopathic people that can groom you. They can pretend to be the perfect person. They can trick you like no other, and your gut will not even pick up on it. There will be no red flags seen.
Well, there might be some subtle things that, depending on your experience, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, it's treacherous waters to tread there, because it's like, well, I would like to trust people. I think most people are good. That's my philosophy. But there are definitely some really awful people out there, both men and women, or whatever.
There's no good and bad. It's all shades of gray.
Well, it's true, but there are people who will, given the right conditions, do harmful things to others.
Yeah,
for reasons. But like what you're saying about this, like if courts don't follow normal court procedures, right? Like this is kind of I'd almost place it akin to like the scientific method. A lot of study has been done, and a lot of work has been done to create as close to an ideal system as possible and a fair system as possible. But it sounds like in this case, they just throw away all the rules and just do whatever the hell they want to.
Yeah, if this is some kind of test in a scientific method, it's ruining lives, like for real.
Well, yeah. Well, and that I was thinking about this, like when you had mentioned this, like, so if somebody accuses you of some wrongdoing, right, and evidence is irrelevant, what you say is irrelevant, then how do you defend yourself against false accusations? I mean, it's like a kangaroo court, essentially.
Oh yeah. The simple answer is you don't. Like I have a friend that spent a good chunk of money on a lawyer, and everybody knows that if you have a lawyer and the other person doesn't, you automatically win. Well, not in these cases. It still automatically goes to the petitioner if the petitioner has a vagina and the respondent has a penis.
Oh,
it's as simple as that. Like, no candy coating whatsoever. And it's all about re-election. Like, judges shouldn't even be elected.
I agree.
It shouldn't be political. There shouldn't be elections. It should be like random appointments that happen for a certain amount of time, and then you don't get to be judge anymore. You go do something else.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
it
yeah.
has
Like
to be impartial.
it totally does. There should not be any political
Yeah.
motivation
If,
or
if there
anything.
if there is voting involved, there's no more semblance of being impartial.
Well, no, if there's voting involved, there's bias
Yeah.
automatically. Like it's a given. And I mean, based on what you're saying, like this sounds crazy coming from somebody like myself, but I can kind of understand the whole incel movement at this point.
Incel as in, is that like the men's right sort of thing?
No, well, not quite. It's people who kind of eschew relationships because they presume that they can't find a romantic partner or whatever, and so they just give up. And in this case, it's kind of similar. It's like,
Yeah.
I could see, like,
I'm starting to see that. Like, there's so many risks now, like, at least in this state.
there is. And I mean, I mean, I don't think that we
Like, how can you trust anyone when, like, this is the legal equivalent of finding a wallet on the ground with $1,000 in it? Like, it's ethically kind of gray if you take advantage of that, or if you pass it by, or return it to its rightful owner, or whatever, or if you just pocket the $1,000. Like, most people aren't going to bat an eye at that, and that's exactly what's happening with this law. Nobody's batting an eye.
Yeah, exactly.
And the people in the know are just taking advantage of it.
Well, and if you call it into question, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would be like, say you're a conspiracy theorist or whatever, that the same hater. Kind of bucket you go into, like, oh, yeah, you're just imagining things. Oh, this is a unique case. But here's the thing. I have many friends who are parents, fathers, who have gone through similar things dealing with their custody of their kids and things like that, where the state sides with the mother, even if the mother is a heroin addicted, like, prostitute or whatever. Oh, they're like, oh yeah, clearly this is a better person to raise this kid. Instead of this like upstanding person that can take care of themselves and can provide. Oh no, but they have a penis, so no. Yeah. And that it's, oh man,
it's a load of bullshit.
Well, and it is, and it really sucks. It's like you had said earlier, I get the intent behind it, but
yeah,
as they say, the best of intentions, right?
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, equality comes from equity, and overcompensation is the opposite of equity. Mm-hmm. There's two opposites of equity, right? Like a teeter-totter. Like, there's undercompensation, there's overcompensation. You have to find the balance in order for everyone to be treated with equality.
Well, and this, you're right. And this to me feels like one of the things that I consider to be one of the most heinous crimes, I guess. Hypocrisy. And that is, Hypocrisy. Yeah. Yep. Like having a double standard. There should be one standard for everybody. That is the fair way. That is the equal way, where everybody's treated the same. It doesn't matter what you look like, what your background is, what your language or heritage is.
Yeah.
The same standard and the same processes apply. And it seems like some people got their tendrils into the state and manipulated it to do their bidding. And here we are. And of course, you have no choice but to deal with the state. Like, it's not like McDonald's where you could just be like, well, I'm going to go over to Wendy's because McDonald's is being an asshole. No, your choice is the state or the state.
Now, I'm no legal expert, but isn't it like unconstitutional to treat someone as if they're guilty until proven innocent?
I think that might be part of the Constitution.
That is exactly what is happening in Washington State right now.
It happens actually all over the world too, right? I mean, with this cancel culture stuff, like presumption of guilt based on very limited data. Like, you know,
Well, and that's cancel culture is what's fighting against this being fixed, because speaking up about men being at a disadvantage is automatically seen as anti-woman, and that is not the case. Like it's not pie. Like everyone can have equality. There's enough of that to go around. Like
Yeah.
it absolutely is not logically valid to think that just because patriarchy historically had the upper hand, that all of a sudden men should be treated horribly.
Well, patriarchy comes from the church, which is now the state, and so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's a whole different
Yeah,
thing.
but
But
wherever
yeah,
it came from, what however long it lasted, if it even happened, that's all other topics. But like the fact of the matter is, we have a culture that's been brainwashed to think that like minorities are the only ones who are capable of being harmed.
yeah.
Minority groups, I mean, like pick any group, like anyone that has been sociologically perceived as being at a disadvantage,
Oh, you
which
mean
is
people
very
with
subjective.
glasses, right? Like nerds?
Right. Well, no, because you're a white man, that
Oh,
nullifies the fact that you wear glasses. You see what I
yep.
mean? You see how easy it is to like erase a person's experience?
Well, dehumanizing people. That's
Yeah.
exactly what Hitler did. I mean,
And it's not okay to do that with anyone except white men. And like I'm sorry
well,
if that
back in
sounds
the 30s,
sexist.
it was okay to do that, or it was not okay to do that with anybody but Jews.
Right.
At least in Germany. I mean, we do have to be careful of overcorrecting, like going too
Mm-hmm.
far. Like, yeah, okay, maybe there's some advantages or something, but if we can like balance that out, um, that's fine. But we shouldn't tip the balance so far that instead of creating a level playing field, we punish the people who previously had somewhat of an advantage or a
Yeah.
perceived advantage, and that it really is perceptual. It's not actual.
Yeah. And like this would probably be a whole other episode, but my feelings have always been that feminism more or less is just a form of sexism. But you'll see a lot of men that claim to be feminists, but very few women that will even, well, I don't personally know any women that claim to be aligned with the men's rights activists or anything, but I do know some that at least have started acknowledging and being vocal about the ability of a man to be like sexually abused.
Mm-hmm.
And like it warms my heart to feel that kind of camaraderie, like that recognition from the opposite sex that so often thinks it's impossible for a man to be transgressed upon in
Well,
any
yeah,
fashion,
yeah,
much
and
less sexual.
it
And
feels.
but even those people probably wouldn't feel too comfortable, you know, accepting the fact that these laws for anti-harassment have been heavily stacked against men. I mean,
Oh, and
some
they're
some
being.
probably would, but they're probably not going to be very vocal about it.
Well, and not only are they heavily stacked against men, but they're being abused
Uh-huh.
for retribution,
Yeah.
essentially, for perceived wrongs. And yeah, it's problematic because like it's dehumanization. The fact is, we're all humans. We bleed the same color of blood, no matter what we look like, no matter where we come from. Unless you come from Vulcan, then you're dirty green blood. Uh, but yeah, like we all deal with kind of the same sort of things, and I think this like us versus them kind of mentality, like it feels very much manufactured, like designed to pit people against each other, to for somebody whoever to, I don't know, play out their sick fantasy or something like that. Or I honestly, I don't know where it comes from. Because, yeah, I mean, feminism originally, I guess probably from like uh, the
60s.
women's suffrage, I'd say like the
Oh,
20s,
like in, yeah, 20s, 30s.
like
Yeah.
that kind of trying to get like, hey, at least women should be kind of on par. And yeah, in the
Mhm.
60s, the women's lib movement.
Oh, yeah. All that was
The
totally legit. There's no
Yeah,
reason women shouldn't vote. There's no reason women shouldn't have every other opportunity.
yeah,
I fully
exactly.
agree with that.
Yeah.
You know,
And
like,
it's the same thing with the civil rights movement, like
I
just
think it
because.
goes for the bad shit too. Like, go to war,
Mhm.
have the dangerous jobs, like all of that,
Yeah,
all of it.
yeah, everybody should be like treated equally. Um, but
And
yeah, I think it sounds. I mean, I haven't gone through what you've gone through, but I know some people who have, and it it's definitely the balance is tipped very heavily, like
yeah.
almost to the point of absurdity, to the point where you're like, what?
And you'll never see this on mainstream media. You're only going to find it on kitchen sink microscopy or something, like,
Yeah, yeah, on the fringes, essentially.
yeah. I mean, there's so much hypocrisy out there. It's always listen to the victim until it's a white man.
Yeah.
Like it
Which isn't
things like
that
that piss me
bigoted?
off.
Isn't that equally as bigoted as anything
It
else?
is absolutely bigotry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people don't like hearing that when they think they're all like high and mighty and woke or whatever. Like if you tell them, hey, that's bigoted thinking, they get real butthurt.
Well, and
Real
you know
butthurt.
why they do is because they didn't arrive at their conclusions through logic and reason. They arrived
Right.
through propaganda. So
Exactly.
it's religious thinking, essentially.
Yeah,
Because
they're sheep.
yeah, exactly. Like if you find yourself getting emotional about a topic of conversation, somebody asking questions, well, then you're brainwashed. You're just like a Scientologist, so you might as well sign up.
Yeah, pretty much.
You might as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so much overcorrection in society, and I get that it can be hard to see it right at the beginning, right? When the
Yeah.
teeter totter is just like this, it's hard to notice. But when it's at that 45-degree angle, it's pretty hard not to notice. Yet the propaganda has done such a good job of blinding people to
Well,
what's going on.
oh yeah, and it's told people that oh, it's working. Like justice is being served. And oh man, that
Yeah,
and oh man, I had a thought there about that.
a lot of thoughts.
Oh, so it's okay to tip the balance a little bit further if there's some kind of imbalance from the standpoint of scrutiny. It's okay to be a little bit more, like police, right? I think when it comes to a police officer shooting somebody, we should be a lot more, we should be inspecting things much more carefully than if just some Joe Schmo shot somebody.
Yeah. Carefully, but not
but-
with, preconceived notions.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole thing. The assumptions, like starting, like presuming guilt because of some certain conditions that you've arbitrarily arrived at. That, oh, well, because it's a white male, well, then that must mean this. Well, no, you have to. I mean, sure, maybe in certain conditions, it might make more sense to be more analytical, more thoughtful, dig a little bit deeper to find the truth in those conditions. But you should never come with presumptions. That is absolutely the wrong way to go, and that's exactly how you get concentration camps where Jews are being killed. Like that's how that happens. And oh
Yeah,
man,
I mean, it's normally I would shy away from the reductum ad Hitlerium or whatever they call that. But um, it's not far off actually, because it is. And I mean, I don't think there's like a person, like with Hitler, trying to drive this kind of propaganda, right? There's not
No.
like an evil. Well, what would a woman have instead of a mustache to twirl?
No, it
Well,
was the
I
bearded
probably
lady.
shouldn't say
So
it.
the bearded lady.
Okay, yeah, like there's no one like pulling the strings on this
No,
as like an
not one
individual.
person.
Yeah,
No.
but it's been like building over time to the point
Yeah.
where there's a culture, cancel culture, which is bullying.
Mm-hmm.
It's sanctioned bullying. It says, oh, this bullying is okay because those people are the wrong people. And
Yeah.
and that's absolutely no different than saying those nerds are the wrong people. Let's go pick on them.
Yeah, or those
No
people
different whatsoever.
or those people with a particular religious belief are the wrong people. And
if you cancel somebody, you are a bigot.
Yeah. And
like black and white, one of the few black and whites. Like if you cancel somebody, you're being a bigot.
Especially, well, if you do it sight unseen based on like one variable or something. Yeah, totally.
Like if your personal experience led you to that conclusion, okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were personally affected by this person, all of the scenario and all of the details, and you decide you're done with that person. That's different. If it's a celebrity who said something 25 years ago and you all of a sudden decide you're not going to see their movies anymore, you're just being a dick.
Yeah, like a tweet or something, just some random shower thought that somebody had in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Well,
Minority Report shit. Like you're being police. Like
no, Minority Report is a good example of that. I mean, and my only reason for bringing up Hitler is because it's a pretty extreme example that everybody kind of knows.
Right.
But it does, like, okay, it doesn't necessarily parallel all the things that people put it, like, align it with in terms of events happening in the world. But it's a good example of, like, the system gone awry.
Yeah.
Like, really bad things happening because of really, just poor structure, essentially, I guess.
Yeah. Another good teeter-totter example is people that try to shoot down the Hitler, comparisons, because they get real nitpicky and they're like, well, 6 million people didn't die, so it's invalid.
Yeah, it was more like 11 million, actually.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, like where do you draw the line? I shouldn't
laugh about that. That's not actually that funny, but I mean,
no, yeah.
But
I mean, the hypocrisy is like funny in a ironic way.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if like the statistics, the facts don't necessarily matter in this case. It's illustrative of
analogies aren't meant to be apple to apple.
Well, yeah, it's like when you say, "Oh my God, there's like 1 million shopping carts in this parking lot." You don't literally mean 1 million. You just mean there's a lot of shopping carts, but it makes it much more punchy to exaggerate. And that's kind of the same sort of thing. But it is a good example of why we should be cautious of letting things get out of hand. Because, well, when they do, people die or people's lives are ruined senselessly for no reason. And I think we are kind of in that state right now. I mean, especially with what you're talking about the courts. Like, the courts are supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to be a place where you can state your case. Everybody has time to say what they have to say, and you're sharing information. You state the facts, provide evidence and things, and then it's analyzed by somebody who's experienced in dealing with these things, and provides some kind of judgment, I guess, a final say. based on the evidence.
I just feel like in this day and age, we can absolutely achieve impartial uh, everything regarding politics.
Mhm.
You can have an entirely invisible person be a judge, be a president. Like you could campaign with just text on what your policy is. And people aren't voting for a person, a gender, a color, an age. They aren't voting for anything except the policy. You can do that now.
Oh
You can
yeah.
do that with judges. You can do that in court. You can say, this is my case. You don't know what my gender is. This is my case. You don't know what my gender is. And the judge doesn't have anyone looking to them saying, that's who I'm going to vote for. And it's
Yeah.
all entirely impartial and anonymous. That's how you get impartiality. Is that a word?
Impartiality. Yeah.
Impartiality.
No, that's a really good point. That not knowing, not being able to see somebody's face, just being able to look at the information.
It's like the confessional booth in a Catholic church.
Yeah. I mean, other than the fact that you can hear somebody's voice, so you can kind of like deduce a few things, but you don't see their face. You don't know who they are. And yeah, that would make a lot more sense. The problem with such things is people have been conditioned. Sorry, more beer. People have been conditioned over many decades to think in terms of these boxes, like political boxes or whatever, societal categories that everybody's in, where it's like, oh, here I am in this box, and there's the others over there in that box, and we fight against each other. And that's something that like really drives me up the wall about the internet. The original dream. I mean, I grew up in the age of BBSs and stuff where you had a handle. Nobody knew what your gender was. They didn't know who you were, where you lived. They just knew your handle, and you could pick whatever handle you wanted. And that was it. And you made friends, like you had relationships out there over phone lines back then. But it was really like true equality, true freedom. It didn't.
When you don't have pretenses or like drapery. I mean, like this is why I really enjoyed the freedom and the like, I don't know, acceptance of being on a nude beach. Is nobody has any fronts up. Nobody's hiding behind anything. You're all just out there, and nobody's like staring at stuff or judging anything.
Yeah, or judging you,
Yeah, like everyone's just in their natural state, and I've never been in a group of more polite and kind people that are like actually feeling more empowered to like just talk to their neighbor. Mm-hmm. Like it's honestly like, if you want a Mr. Rogers neighborhood, go to a nude beach and take your clothes off.
Yeah, or and that's kind of how anarchists are too. Like it's
I can see that analogy.
Yeah. I mean, you go to you like, as a good example, go to Burning Man. It's not necessarily an anarchist festival, but it kind of is.
Or a nudist place, but there's a bit of all of that.
A little bit of both. Yeah. It's very artistic, very creative, and very free.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, to judge somebody is seen as like one of the worst possible things you could do. To prejudge somebody in particular.
Right. Yeah. Especially on something aesthetic, right? Like, and when it boils down to it, like, our gender is, largely aesthetic when it comes to judgment of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's just like, oh, that's a man. Automatically, they should be treated with extra scrutiny and have fewer rights because they've had it so good. Like that's not cool.
No, and like any other kind of prejudice, skin color or whatever,
Right.
that like what really you're going to you're
Removing
telling
any
me that
rights for any reason
well,
is wrong.
well, yeah, and assuming that because somebody looks a certain way, that they must be a certain way is bullshit. We're humans. Like there are so many varieties of people within a certain look of people that they might as well be akin to stars. Countless varieties, like
Oh yeah,
limitless. Like it,
we
everybody
are
is
star
different.
stuff.
Yeah, and you're gonna find people who are exactly alike who look entirely different, and you're gonna find people entirely different.
That look
Like
exactly alike.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
I've got doppelgangers.
Yeah. So do I. Apparently, somebody driving around Tacoma. It and the world over too. No matter where you go, there are people who are very similar. There are people who are very different. It's genetics and experience and environment. All those factors play in, and it has nothing to do with whatever body you inhabit. Like that is not your choice. You have no control over that, and it doesn't dictate how you're going to be. And that is a difficult thing for people who have been conditioned by the church of the state to wrap their heads around, that people are in fact different inside and outside. Yeah. Oh man,
I think this is a good time to bring up good old Daryl Davis.
oh hell yeah.
Because so like a lot of the things we're saying, people would probably cancel us over because it aligns with some of the things that men's rights activists have to say. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I don't agree with everything that the MRA has to say. I think they are on one end of a teeter-totter. But that doesn't preclude them from having the ability to be right about some things.
That's true. No, that's exactly it. That this idea that because somebody is different in some superficial way, that all of the things that they believe must be different or wrong.
And like Daryl Davis, if you actually take the time to talk to them, you'll find a lot of them are on the fence or are persuadable in some fashion to kind of move toward the center of the teeter-totter.
Yes.
And discard all of that hatred and bigotry and realize like, you know what? Like I've been a little bit too aesthetic.
A little hasty in your judgment,
Yeah.
maybe. Well, and that's kind of my philosophy too, is like changing hearts and minds. Like I don't want to make everybody think like I do. I what I want is for people to think and think critically, like analyze what you believe and why you believe it and challenge it and give me challenges too. Like I don't have all the answers. I mean, but that's the thing, is that there's so much focus on, oh, we need to convert the non-believers into the believers. Well, that's really no different than the other side, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like you're both fucking idiots, and don't have all the answers, and you're both trying to convince each other that you're right. Like one person is a flat earther and the other person is one of these, they believe that the earth is like a dragon or something, and mountains used to be tree trunks or something, and they're arguing about which philosophy is right. Well, they're both fucking wrong. Sorry to break it to you, but they're both wrong. Like,
right.
you should be focusing on trying to figure out that, like analyzing things and discussing things. Like, discussion is really important, but it shouldn't be a method of conversion. It should be a method of finding the truth. And we did talk about the truth in a previous episode, which might be up there. I don't know if Casey remembers to add that.
Sometimes I get it. So you see a little pop-up up there. What is truth? Like there's shit, I think I lost it.
Oh, dang it. Well, ponder that for a minute. And I was going to say, like, all the while all of us plebes are arguing amongst ourselves, there are people, the elites essentially having their way with the planet, and using us to do their bidding so they can have more of their way. And it's a diversion tactic. And convincing us that we have to fight each other, that those others, they don't like you. And it's kind of like tapping somebody's shoulder and saying, like, hey, that person called your mom a whore. And then turning around and being like, hey, that guy called your mom a whore. And then all of a sudden there's a fist fight in the bar.
Yeah.
Like, well, did you even think to find out whether that was true or not, or just start punching?
Right.
No, and I feel like
this analogy.
Court thing is kind of similar. Like, nobody is even asking whether this is right, whether it actually works, whether it's logical. They're just starting to punch, essentially. And when somebody gets punched, they're like, hey, all right, we took out another one of them.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say the like one example of something where, like, the men's rights make a good point, but maybe from a wrong angle, is that they say, like, oh, men are seen as expendable because, like 99.9% of deaths in war are men. 93% of deaths on the job are men and stuff like that. But it's also on the feminists, because the feminists aren't fighting for equality on the bad stuff. They're only fighting for equality on the good stuff. Like, we want the high end of the pay scale, not we want the dangerous jobs. Right?
Yeah. How many women are utility workers that get up in the helicopters and use the hot stick to crawl on the power lines? And
I'm sure if you went and applied, you might get the job, but are you? Like,
that is an important point.
It's a two-way street. Like, you have to try to get the job that you claim to want an equal right for. Are you?
Or underwater welding or something like that. Like, super, or those guys that like live underwater for like a week in a pressurized tank. And
you can permanently reduce the argument, right? They'd probably be like, well, I don't apply because I know I won't get the job. It's like, well, at what point do you draw the line and say, like, this is just ridiculous?
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, because that's the thing.
Irreducible complexity. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
The phrase I'm looking for.
Yeah, like, if you applied and didn't get the job and there was clearly some kind of bias there, then there's a point. There's a point to be made. But if you don't even apply, if you don't have the training and the skills necessary to do the job, like, you can't complain about not getting a job that you haven't applied for and haven't even like trained for.
Now, you know what? This is anecdotal, I'll admit, but anecdotes make data. most of my bosses have been women.
Same here.
Yeah. Um, a lot of the science industry is heavily like upper level. We're talking like directors, associate directors, and managers and stuff are women. Um, I noticed this thing because like I care about it. Like I want to see equality. I want to see people succeeding. I'm happy for people succeeding despite whatever is might be holding them back in society. And it happens in science. And that has been, a lion's share of my recent jobs. And
well, and anecdotally, it happens in tech as well. Like my
yeah,
IT director is also a woman too.
nursing, like there are, I mean, obviously like nursing has been like labeled as one of those like female jobs, not so much lately, but like it still is predominantly.
Yeah, and historically, and that there's something to be said for like precedent where
And I'll tell you what, nurses are way more hard workers than doctors are. Like,
oh yes.
So it's not a bad thing that women are predominantly in the nursing field because they're kicking ass. So
yeah, and
kudos.
I'm of the mind that I think there are definitely differences between men and women, as there are differences between anybody of different experiential levels. So people tend to gravitate,
but it doesn't make anyone better or worse.
No, and that's not. I would never claim that anybody's better. I just think people tend to gravitate towards the thing that fits them the most or the thing they like the most, and that's a good thing. Like, don't we want people who are passionate about the thing they do for work? Like, who cares? Who cares? Like, what proportion of men and women work in a particular industry?
Yeah, and
it's irrelevant.
Like that makes a lot of sense. Like caring for somebody in the position of like a nurse who's like actually hands-on with the patient, like more than the doctor ever will be. There you could see a relation to that with carrying a child. Like, yeah, the male contributes the genetic material, but you're doing the lion's share of the connection. You're carrying the child, you're delivering the child, you have the neurotransmitter release from like carrying, delivering, and holding the child and feeding the child. Like there is all of that maternal stuff that absolutely parlays into what you might be inclined to do as a career.
And there's like very few guys can pull that off.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Nothing wrong with that. Like,
no,
play to your strength.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and there's a reason why talking elevators use a female voice, because it's more comforting for people. There's like experimental data for this to show that like anybody, men or women, in an elevator, when there's a male voice saying going down, like it's a lot more scary when a dude says it than when a woman says it. It's like it just that's
going down.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I wish we could have Aerosmith playing right now. But we can't, sadly. Someday.
It's sad that I don't even know which song you're alluding to, because there's so many that it could be.
Loving an Elevator.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Could have been Falling in Love is Hard on the Knees, or
oh man,
good old Aerosmith.
Oh yeah, good times.
Taste of India. Okay, anyway.
I'm gonna guess there's a double meaning in that.
Yeah, probably. Maybe a triple meaning.
Oh, wow. All right.
Talking food.
Oh, clearly. Of course. Yep.
Yeah, curry. right?
I prefer the taste of Thailand myself, but anyway.
I really like the Indian curry myself.
Oh,
Thailand's
we're talking about
a second.
okay, yeah.
China curry is definitely like the runner up. Like,
I love a good curry, by the way.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, God.
Maybe I'm just Dollar Chinese. It's like,
oh my God, dollar
poisoning
Chinese.
my bias a little bit from the undercooked chicken at one time.
Oh, but it was so succulent, so divine.
It was so juicy.
Oh, it was delicious. What were we talking about now?
I don't even know. Might be a good time for a pee break, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could,
or a commercial break, I should say.
Yeah. Hopefully, you've got some kind of new commercial, so I don't have to recycle the old stuff. But
yeah, maybe I should come up with something.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yes,
after these messages,
we'll be right back.
Pseudo cheese. That's right. Pseudo cheese. Available in stores now. Rated as the best cheese Cheeseco produces. Slices easily. Tastes great. Melts deliciously. Limitless uses. %, all natural and GMO free. Head to your local grocer today and ask for genuine Cheeseco pseudo cheese. And remember, it may not be real cheese, but it sure is orange.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
Yes. To get back to the legal stuff, though, when you have a system where the preponderance of evidence, even though on the books, technically still lies with the petitioner, when all you require is for any reasonable person to be fearful as your preponderance of evidence, you're basically saying, like, well, I'm just going to take someone at their word because I can't read their mind. And they can say anything. They can frame a person easy peasy by just saying like, hey, I don't have to show any evidence. It just could have happened in this 3-minute window. You would be required to account for every single minute of every day in order to maybe shift the judge away from saying, well, I better just rubber stamp this or I won't get voted in. It's bullshit.
Yeah,
it has to change. We need to be super loud about this.
Well, yeah, and
make this go viral, share it again, and then share it tomorrow, and share it again tomorrow.
Exactly. Well, and yeah, a reasonable person being fearful. I mean, we actually should bring Joe on to do the discussion that we had, the topic we'd talked about a very long time ago about perception versus reality, perceiving threat and things like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, to give you an example, a friend of mine recently went through a situation where the judge didn't even read the mass of declarations praising the good character of this friend of mine, where an abusive ex and an ex-wife and an ex that's a best friend all said, you know what, there's no curious behavior whatsoever, and none of that was even acknowledged, and that it was basically just yeah, you're a stalker.
And that does kind of like call into question, like, what is justice? Like, can it really exist in such a system?
Not that kind of system.
No. Well, when like evidence is irrelevant, well, then anything goes, and you
justice
like,
is dead on arrival.
oh yeah. Well, and if you're not following some kind of like scientific-ish method, then it might as well be like a court in a court in a third world country, like presumption of guilt and things like that. And all you have to, well, it kind of, I don't want to say this because this is kind of like a Hitlerian analogy, but it smacks of 1984. Well, so that's my book recommendation. I think I've recommended that before, but if you haven't read it, you really should.
If you've graduated high school, I'm pretty sure you've read it. Like, I think it's like required reading, right?
Oh yeah. But the idea is essentially you're known to be guilty by the state, but they have to play out, like jump through the hoops and do a little show for the people, because that's what they're expected to do. And it kind of feels like this sort of thing, what your friend is going through is pretty similar to that. And like, here's the thing. However you feel about things, whatever you feel about the others, the people you don't like, if such a system is in place that is so tipped in favor of one direction, not the band, but if it's so tipped in favor of that, well, what's to say it's not going to be used against you sometime?
Oh, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing that we really got to drive home is this could happen to you or someone you love very easily.
Well, sure. And let's take the current state of things, right? Men are demonized right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, sure, you've built this structure around this concept of punishing men because you don't like them, and they all deserve whatever punishment you would like to exact on them. Okay, fine. Fair enough. What happens now when you've constructed this system and the balance tips the other way? So now men are in charge and they leverage this same system against you.
Oh yeah, like
that is the risk. That is the slippery slope kind of thing.
In fact, the other end of that teeter-totter has actually never been the case in history. It's never been that stacked as it is against men right now. And it's like, even if you don't personally think like, oh, men deserve to be treated more harshly, that's what society is doing, whether you know it or not.
And whether it's men or whether it's like black people or Asians or whatever, you pick your
Everybody's
poison.
Gone through it at this point.
Like it will inevitably, whoever gets into control of that system is going to use that as a tool against the others.
Yeah. Having the upper hand at some point in history does not mean people who weren't even born then should be suffering for the sins of the father.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like, period. Like, it is bullshit. I don't care. I really don't care. If men were shitty to women before I was born, I shouldn't have to pay for it.
No, and that's something like being
like, I sympathize. That sucked.
Yeah,
but you know what? Like, it's not my fault.
Exactly.
I wasn't there.
And being a white dude, I don't necessarily even understand what that means, but
right.
People are like, oh well, but like in the 1600s, this thing happened and that thing happened. It's like, okay, where? Well, it happened in the US and Africa and stuff, and the slavery and blah blah blah. And it's like, my ancestry is in Scandinavia. Like, I had nothing to do with that shit. Don't put me in your bucket. I'm not part of that. Like, I don't want to be part of it. Don't put me in that bucket. But
Yeah,
again,
our thing was like rape and pillage. We weren't about the slavery.
And even that wasn't really a thing. The whole Viking thing, like, but I mean, you know, fanciful.
Kind of was.
Some of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, but it's not the same thing as the other stuff. And like, hey, you know, it's another way to dehumanize people, to treat people who look different or think different than you as the others, and treat them like non-humans, essentially, for the purposes of exacting your whatever revenge or something against the ills that you see in the world. Like it, and that can go, well, it's pretty obvious that it goes easily way too far. Like it gets out of hand. And that's the thing about the original design of the justice system, is it was supposed to be impartial. It was supposed to be a jury of your peers, not people who live in the same city as you,
or people that your lawyers get to like pick through.
Oh yeah, and
Fuck
the court system picks through that too.
Yeah.
I don't think we should post this, but you know, jury nullification, we could probably.
Oh yeah, that needs to be up.
Go back up. I can't point that direction. My arm doesn't work like that. But that's a thing.
I almost had to do jury duty, and like if the timing were better, I totally would have done it just so I could have had the opportunity to affect jury nullification.
Yeah,
but it was very, very bad timing. Yeah, like there's. I want to reiterate that when I say I'm against feminism, I'm also against like menism. Like I want equality. I'm an equalist.
I agree with that.
I want people to have every opportunity and, you know, share the burdens of disadvantages equally. You know, it goes
and
both
advantages ways. Too. You know, be treated fairly, right? Like whatever standard applies to one person or group of people should apply to everybody.
Yeah, and to me, I see that as more noble than like picking the side of the underdog. It's like you're trying to get everyone in the middle of the teeter-totter. Mm-hmm. And there aren't that many people trying to do that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
that's true.
You've got your feminists and you've got your men's rights activists, and it's always us versus them, Democrats versus Republicans, or blacks versus whites, or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's always this versus that. Fuck that shit.
Well, that's exactly how you lose. You win the battle, lose the war, essentially.
Yeah.
Like
it's always shifting. Yeah.
Yeah. On the surface, it seems like you've made headway, but you've actually lost ground.
Yeah.
Because now, you know, I shouldn't have to say it. But yeah, I should probably do a minute microscopy about that one. Oh man.
There's a million ways to go with this discussion. Like, I mean, there's a lot. There's also a lot of good points that feminism makes. You know, there have been a lot of inequities and prejudices and you know, people holding women's head underwater in certain aspects. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And fuck that. You know, like I'm not about that. But it's like those things don't nullify another person's experience. You know, like because a man held someone's head underwater in the 70s on like wage, you know, inequality or something, doesn't mean like a guy can't be raped by a woman, or the justice system can't be stacked against men because like, well, they had it easy, so like they deserve this, like
Well, and
yeah,
that is kind of annoying because it kind of
yeah,
lumps everybody into the same category. It's the same, but like it's no less bigoted than racism or anything else like that. Sexism,
yeah,
like prejudging an entire presumed category of people, and I say that because it really is. Like,
oh, yeah.
men are as varied as women. People of all skin colors are as varied as everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Um,
And I'll just say it. Privilege is bullshit.
well, especially based on superficial criteria.
Yes. Privilege is like literally card carrying member stuff, right? Like it can be revoked. You have to buy it. That's privilege. Privilege is not something you're born with, ever.
No,
You were never born into
now,
privilege. Privilege is something that is purchased. It is bestowed upon by those with more power than you, and they allow you into their elite group, and they can take it away at any time.
Yeah.
But you can't take away white skin.
Nope.
You can't bestow white skin. That's just how you're born. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like
white privilege is bullshit. Sorry.
I agree. And this is probably going to have to be another.
And male privilege is bullshit. Like all the privileges are bullshit. Like it's.
Oh yeah. Now, historically, like this is the thing that drives me nuts. Is this America focused kind of thing? Like everybody looks to the U.S. and thinks that's the whole world. Like, okay, yeah. Fucking A, that is not the whole world, and that is not the entire timeline of the planet. A lot of things have happened in a lot of different places. Just because you perceive something right now doesn't mean that that's how it exists across the world. That is very nearsighted, very myopic. And
ooh, an really, ophthalmology term. I like that.
Yeah. I throw those out there every once in a while.
I used to work in ophthalmology research, so that's my nerd coming out.
Well, and that's another class of people,
nerds
who are underprivileged, but now it's cool. So it's like,
actually, it's kind of working to my advantage in the dating realm. I'll be honest.
Yeah. and so should we now exact revenge on the past? Like,
what's the point?
Exactly. Like,
yeah, I'm bitter about it, but what's the point? Like, I got picked on, but you know what? Like, I'm reaping benefits now. So like
the best thing to do is laugh about it. Like,
yeah, it would be so beneath me to like go to the trouble to like make someone's life miserable when I could just be enjoying my life now. Right.
Exactly.
Like, and I might be speaking for a friend that has been framed for some bullshit. Like what would be the point? Like, the grass is actually kind of greener for a change, like,
oh man. God, I feel like we could go on and on about this subject.
I mean, really, like, yeah, the whole topic of sexism, any ism, really, like, it's been a while since we've really addressed an ism. And in fact, I was working on a book about isms, like from a KSM sort of angle. And I should probably pick that up again because I got pretty far way into it.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, and like there's so much to dive into there. Like, talking about it is great, but like to have a book compendium, is kind of like a good a supplement to the discussion, right? Like there's just a lot to it. So many layers and depths that you can go into. And it's like, you know, no one person is right. Like everybody's got good points.
Well, that's true, and that's where discussion is really important, and understanding and like listening to people and contemplating what they have to say.
Like people have to understand, if I say men's rights activists made a good point, I am not invalidating feminism. I'm not aligning 100% with MRA.
Yeah,
neither of those things are ever true. From saying they made a good point. You know?
That is one of those fallacious thinking kind of models that people fall into, where it's the us versus them mentality.
Yeah.
That, oh, you know, if you even ascribe to like one particular thing, well, like I don't know, whatever. Take somebody you don't like. Imagine if they ate like
even Trump probably did a couple things right, you know?
Well, actually, well, there we go. Let's say Trump ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If he did, all the people who didn't like Trump would all of a sudden be like, well, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are a sign that you're like a bad person.
Cancel peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
But they're good. You know, like he's a person and he just likes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like,
cancel hamburgers.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't understand. This is exactly how people are manipulated. You are being manipulated, not you, Casey, but like you, the viewers, are being manipulated to think a certain way and behave a certain way, to follow a pattern, to be sheep, essentially, follow the leader.
Yeah.
And
it's fine to not like Trump based on whatever values you have, but to take everything he does and reduce it to essentially an ad hominem lumping, right? That's a fallacious reasoning. Now, there are plenty of reasons to not like Trump that are logically valid, sure, but if you fall into
personally
that camp,
valid too. I mean, it's like whatever personal philosophy you have.
Yeah,
if there's a disalignment, then sure.
But if you find yourself thinking, I don't like that just because Trump thought it, or I don't like that just because somebody in the MRA said it,
or because
check yourself, you know,
or you know, you're somebody in the MRA like saying, well, I don't like these feminists. You know, if there's a feminist that ate like a chocolate ice cream cone or something, well, now chocolate ice cream is a sign of feminism, and I don't like it.
Or if you're in the MRA and somebody on the feminism side says something that resonates with you and you feel inclined to just dismiss it, like check yourself, you know, like this goes all ways. Like it's not men versus women. It's logic versus illogic.
Well, yeah. And it's also trying to find out what is correct, like in the universe as a whole. The universe is a lot bigger than our political philosophy or our religious philosophy. It doesn't care about that, actually. So it would behoove us to not care either. Like, we need to get along. Like, we should be getting along. And if you actually sit down and talk to somebody like Daryl Davis did, you're going to find you have a lot in common. Like, be it like an enjoyment of blues music or something like that, whatever it is, you're going to find common ground. And that is the thing, the catalyst that brings you together. And that is what we should be focused on, is coming together and solving problems, not fighting. Because as soon as we start coming to blows and fighting each other, we've already lost. Like, okay, yep, the people that want to control us have already won the battle. Like, we're fighting, we're infighting. We hate each other, and now they can pull the puppet strings and control us.
I have another poignant t-shirt statement. we tend to put so much weight on things that have almost no impact whatsoever on our actual survival.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we doing that? What does it really matter?
That's a really good point. Huh.
Like if you're threatening my life, that's something I really have to pay attention to and devote a lot of like time and energy and thought and like resource to.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like opinion and, you know, whatever my chosen culture tells me to believe, that seems to like take up the lion's share of most people's mental real estate.
Yeah, and people tend to get very emotionally invested in those things.
Like we're too comfortable with how easy it is to survive now that we're getting really superficial.
Well, I mean, humans do like a challenge. So I get that, but I mean, yeah, there's a point where it's gone too far and we are putting too much energy into fighting, like bickering over stuff. Like imagine if you and I got in an argument over like Star Trek red shirts. You know, like it doesn't actually matter because that's a fictitious universe.
More
But
gold
maybe
shirts
to
died
us-
than red shirts.
Yeah, like maybe to us it matters. I mean, but it at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. But you know, and I think that's a pretty good example because most people on the outside could look at that and be like, well, that's ridiculous. Why would anybody fight over that? Well, it's no different than the shit you're fighting over. Pick whatever you feel emotionally invested in. And it's the same thing as the red shirt debate. Like it really doesn't matter. Okay, yes, if there's a giant flaming meteorite coming towards the earth, okay, it's time to hunker down and figure out what to do. But apart from that,
well, okay, I would
matter.
say anytime you're foregoing the concept of innocent until proven guilty, that's a flaming meteorite.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's actually happening to men right now in Washington State is that, and I also hate having to say state, but you know, here in Washington, like it is absolutely to your disadvantage to have external genitalia in the court. And that's a sad truth.
It really
you know,
is.
Like it, you are fighting not just an uphill battle, but like an uphill battle in ice. Like
yeah.
you are not going to get to the top unless you are super lucky.
Well, and honestly, at that point, like if the cards are stacked against you and the system is built to defeat you automatically without any consideration, how is that any different than back in the 1700s with slavery?
Witch hunts, slavery. You
Yeah,
know what? You
like
know what? The unforeseen effects of this could be is like if you falsely accuse the wrong type of guy, they might be inclined to be like, well, if I'm going to be punished for something, I might as well give them something to punish me for. You might get yourself killed trying to frame somebody who otherwise would not have harmed you at all.
Yeah, because if you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, like point, if you can see, hey, I'm going to get screwed no matter what, I might as well fucking stop them from doing this to the next guy. Like I fully see the logic behind that kind of thinking, And I fully support it. It's like, you are at a disadvantage. You might as well fight for your life. You might as well fight for the life of the next guy who follows you.
And it really sucks because it's not the other person necessarily. They're simply utilizing a system that exists to its full potential.
Yeah, but it's like, there shouldn't be systems that, I don't know, like almost incentivize violence.
They do
for survival.
Yeah.
Like you have such, as a man in Washington State, you have such injustice against you that there is a strong urge to be like, well, if I'm being blamed for something, I might as well fucking do it. You know, like,
especially
don't make anyone a liar.
Well, and it's especially like troubling when it's something you didn't even do. You didn't even do this, and you're being blamed like judge, jury, and execution, essentially.
Yeah,
for something you didn't even do. You're an innocent bystander.
And the funny thing is, the judges are so concerned about the people they don't issue restraining orders for that end up getting killed. Those are the ones that the media pays attention to.
Mm-hmm.
The media doesn't pay attention to the people that are abusing the system and end up paying the price behind the scenes or something, you know, like,
well, and you
that's
know,
probably happening
because they have to keep up pretenses. You know, if there's a flaw in the system, the media is gonna paint it in a light that convinces people that, well, you know, this is an anomaly.
Yeah.
Or something.
The media will never latch onto this because it's men at a disadvantage. And if you highlight that, you're seen in a very negative light.
Which, again, it goes back to the time where humankind judged people on skin color. I would recommend a movie, Amistad. That's my movie recommendation. The true recommendation for today.
Well, I've just started watching The Red Pill. It was a documentary about a former female feminist, lifelong feminist, that met with, in Daryl Davis fashion, met with the men's rights activists and started to see the points they were making. And IMDb loves it, and Rotten Tomatoes hates it. So you know it's good. You know it's
always with Rotten Tomatoes.
Always
look at the viewer scores, not the reviewer scores. Like, yeah,
it's like, yeah.
And that is a good thing, because it's kind of like a coming together sort of thing. I like that.
It's feminism and maleism. I don't know, like coming together and seeing where they align.
Yeah.
And that's the takeaway. That's what you should take away from that. It shouldn't be like, oh, well, this bitch was just like brainwashed by the MRA. Like, no, like, there are good points. There are some stupid points that both sides make.
It's true. Yeah.
Seriously, like, both sides are fucking stupid.
And it's the same with
somewhere
politics.
In the middle is the truth, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. But having those conversations and being open to discussion is like what it's all about.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Like, if you're a feminist, fuck you. If you're an MRA, fuck you. Like, find the reality. Find where people are being treated equally, whatever that looks like. Cast aside your labels and just strive for, like, treating people well. It's that easy. It's really that easy.
Exactly. And
it's so fucking easy.
Having conversations and seeking common ground. Like, it's amazing.
However you want to be treated, treat others that way.
Yeah.
Like, if the law were that goddamn simple, I swear to God, like, it would just be cake, right?
Yeah,
like,
it would. But unfortunately, it's kind of a weapon that's wielded against the other's enemies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it has been through time immemorial, and it's not over.
Yeah.
There's going to be another time where there will be new others. If you
Oh,
think,
yeah.
like, if you think it's over, it's not over.
Yeah, there will definitely be a time where there's like video games with guys in G strings, and that's their armor, and like women will be like clad like head to toe in steel, and like it's gonna go the other way at some point. Like it will. It's inevitable.
Well, yeah, and you're gonna find like a time where Minecraft people physically IRL fight people in the real world over stuff.
IRL in the real world.
Oh, yeah, well, had to qualify that. But there's going to be a time where Minecraft people fight the metaverse people over stupid shit that happened in the virtual world. Like, and it's no different. Like, it's kind of the same thing. I don't know.
To bicker over anything that we see as like binary is almost like there's a ridiculousness in that in itself, right? Like we're starting to open up the ideas to more than binary when it comes to gender. Yeah. We've already known for ages that there's more than binary to color, right? Or race or whatever. Like there's so much blending. There's so much of a melting pot in this country, in the world.
Oh, really. Yeah.
In the world, that there is no black and white anymore.
No, and at some point, the whole planet, probably in like 1,000 years or so, is going to basically be, they're going to look like Brazilians.
Like gender, there's hormonal gender, there's genitalia gender, there's like mental gender. There's so many aspects that go into what we have put into buckets as male and female, right? There are like, I mean, like the reproductive anatomy, the vagina, the clitoris, labia, the glands of the penis, the testicles, like everything, all of it is the same fucking tissue.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is the same biologically. They just developed in different shapes based on hormones and chromosomes, and they come in different sizes and shapes because there are gradients.
Yeah, exactly.
There are absolute gradients. We all have the same equipment. They just fit together differently.
Oh, like, yeah.
Like it is not men and women at all. It's not black and white at all.
Well, and to focus on genitalia is kind of to ignore the mind of a person.
To ignore everything about a person.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything else. It's like you're basically like looking at what's between their legs and putting them in a bucket,
which is no different than looking at the skin layer on somebody and doing the same.
It's absolutely ridiculous,
man. Wow.
And I mean, like, if you can wrap your head around that, whether or not it's your preference, to love somebody of a certain gender or certain color, at least you can understand that you're all the same biological meat, right?
Yeah, like I said, we all bleed red inside. Like we're all
It's
pretty
fine to be
similar.
attracted to whatever.
Well,
It's
and yeah,
fine.
everybody has their preferences.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. If you don't like people with dark skin, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's your preference. Like, if you're not sexually aroused by that, you're not mentally insane. It's just your preference. But
Well, it's no different than like hair color or
right.
eye color.
But maybe that's all you're attracted to is the exact opposite of what your melanin content happens to be. Or your, maybe it's the exact same as your genitalia presents. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
No, there totally
None
isn't.
of it. Whoever you fucking want to fuck is okay.
Exactly. Well, and that goes a long way to like people getting along.
Fat, skinny, black, white, male, female, like these are all buckets that we made up.
Mm-hmm.
We made them up.
Well, and I would challenge anybody if they think that these buckets actually matter.
Well, okay, fat and skinny, there's actually like a lipid difference.
But okay,
it's not like
my point is
there's no actual like difference in the character of the human.
Well, sure, but my point is, where does it begin and end?
Right, yeah.
What is the point when, you're like skinny?
Yeah,
when
exactly.
do you become fat? Right?
Yeah. Like people call me skinny and I see myself and I think like this is my baseline,
Yeah, exactly. And
like
it's the same thing with any other delineation. Like, tell me where somebody, give me the color value for when somebody becomes or when somebody is white versus when they're black. Like, when are they actually black? When are they white?
Oh,
and
yeah.
What about all that stuff in between that like you're not accounting for?
Obama was simultaneously not black enough to be the first black president, but too black to be a president.
Oh, yeah. My point.
How much hypocrisy is in that statement?
My point is illustrated there. Like, oh man. Oh, the thing is, like, getting along should be our focus. Understanding each other, having conversations. Like, I don't understand why people can't do that. Why do we fight so much? Well,
people aren't drinking enough beer. That must be it.
That's true. Okay, yep, I'll drink to that.
Have more beer, have more conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You let your guard down just a little bit because of the beer. and the conversation takes you into territories that maybe you wouldn't have traversed were it not for the beer.
Oh yeah, and you just might make a friend you might not have made were it not for the beer.
How is Heineken not sponsoring us?
Oh my god, I wish. Oh man, this has been like a pretty awesome episode.
One of our best, probably be demonetized, but
yeah, I'm sure it'll be
all of our best. If you don't see an ad at the front of the show, you know it's gonna be a banger. Like, if YouTube isn't giving us any money, it's gonna be a good goddamn episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, it would be really good to have Heineken sponsoring this.
Hell yeah, dude.
We should reach out to him.
We really should make inroads to some breweries and
Yeah.
because like we not only do we drink a variety, well, I drink a variety of beers, you drink space dust.
Space dust, yeah, it's pretty much my thing.
But like we talk about so many things that so many beer drinkers can relate to.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
We should be sponsored by beer companies.
Totally.
God damn it. Come on, beer companies.
Fucking A, man. Ugh.
Pay for advertising. Give us free beer.
Exactly. Well, I think that might be just about all the time we have for tonight. God, this is good.
I knew it would be a good one, and we're definitely not done with it. There's so many roads to go from here.
As always, we will come back to this one.
If you're a hardcore feminist or a hardcore MRAist or
an incel or something like that.
Yeah, like come on the show. Like have a chat with us. Like talk about your position. Because we don't know everything.
Well, and I think it's pretty evident that we're not very judgmental of other people.
No. Like whatever you think, you've got good reason to think it. Your life led you to that conclusion. That's just as valid as any view I have.
Mm-hmm.
I
couldn't have said it better myself, man.
We're all made of experiences and perception.
Oh shit, man, that is deep.
That's all humans are.
Yeah,
experiences and perception. Like,
oh man,
how do we even know our bodies are real?
How do we even know this universe is real?
Oh shit, man.
Oh, simulation theory. Oh,
take the red pill.
Oh man. Well, I don't want to blow too many people's minds too deeply. But oh man, this is definitely a very good one.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, I think for now let's call it a night.
Yeah. I think I managed to talk about my friend without putting my friend in legal jeopardy. So
I think so. Yeah. Exactly. And those in the know,
direct your questions to the private messages.
Exactly.
And I will pass them on to my friend. So long as my friend is out of jail.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to do a jailbreak, but that would make for an epic live stream. It would be so epic.
It might happen.
I might have some tools to do that.
Yep.
But anyway, we're still here.
We'll take that discussion offline.
Yeah, exactly. So those are still sticking around with us. Thanks for sticking it out. And
for my friend. My friend.
Oh God, do I have to do the friends?
I am not a crook. No, that was a bad joke. It makes me look bad. It makes my friend look bad. I mean,
I don't want to say it's appropriate, but like, there's, yeah,
maybe. I mean, we weren't there.
Nixon happened before I was born, so yeah. I don't know.
Same here. Yeah,
I don't know.
He might have been like the best president we ever had, and he got fucking railroaded.
entirely possible.
There's a good conspiracy theory episode.
And Carter too.
What if Nixon was a really good guy?
What a guy. Oh man. Oh,
I should. I'll direct people to the Minute Microscopy where I'm taste testing a fried egg chili chutney sandwich.
Hell yeah. Well,
it's really good, actually. It's super tasty, like, but it really dissolves quick. Like that's not even a joke.
Oh man. Well, I guess that's a pretty good point to end on for now.
For now.
We'll come back to it. Yeah.
We'll stick around for the super pissed off, angsty song that probably will follow. And thanks for deep sink diving with us into sexism and law and just the human condition.
Yeah, it kind of
Really
was.
Like,
yeah, and everything in between. Damn, this is a good one.
How fucking cool is this channel? Share this shit. Why aren't you sharing this shit? Hit that share button.
Why are you
not to hit that share button right now?
Why are you not subscribed? Like, subscribe.
Hit it.
Down here, there's a little button down there, and if it's red, you want to click it and make it gray.
Share this video. Share this video. Wherever the button is on your fucking phone, share this video.